Okay, Julian, turning it over to you.
Great, Denise. Thanks so much. And really appreciate you all taking the time to come hear a little bit more about Pallas Advisors and in particular our fellowship program. So I'm going to be happy to kind of dive into that a little bit further. And as Denise mentioned, I'd love to answer any questions you guys might have. So I'll probably take just a few minutes on the top here to kind of give you an overall background on the company, get into some of the specifics on the program itself, and then look forward to kind of hearing what I can answer from your guys' perspective. But my name is Julian Werpel. I'm senior associate over at Pallas Advisors. I've been at the company for going on 3 years now. I actually came through this fellowship program summer of 21 while I was finishing my master's degree at American University up the street. So I can speak to the program a little bit through experience. So happy to kind of dive into what my experience was like, how it's changed over the years, anything like that. But I'll go ahead and start with talking a little bit about Pallas Advisors. So, Pallas Advisors is an organization that was started by two long-term senior professionals in the national security community about 5 years ago, going on 6 years ago now. It's broken up into three main entities, which I'll go into in a little bit of detail onto all three of the entities. But the main engine that drives the organization is Pallas Advisors, which is our strategic advising arm, where we help entities in the emerging technology space kind of bridge the gap to and then navigate the national security ecosystem. I specifically say entities in emerging technology because it comes in a lot of different ways. So a lot of the organizations we work with are emerging technology companies. So think startups or even like Fortune 50, Fortune 10 companies that are in the emerging technology space that are trying to do business in the national security ecosystem, DoD, intelligence community, State Department. We help them navigate that ecosystem. But also, not only is it tech companies, we do help basically anyone that's in that emerging tech space looking to help navigate national security. So think nonprofits, academic institutions. We've worked with some banks in the past, some venture capital firms. It's a wide gamut of the organizations that the advisors arms kind of touches. So we'll go a little bit deeper into advisors as we talk about what exactly the day-to-day looks like on the fellowship. But the other two arms that I'll mention briefly, we also operate Pallas Ventures, which is a venture capital arm of the company that does some capital investment into a lot of the emerging technology companies that we see. So by nature of what we do at Advisors, we see a lot of startups, a lot of companies that are trying to raise money to kind of build or to expand upon their technology or their business. And Pallas Ventures is an opportunity for our organization to do some investing in these emerging tech companies. And then finally, the third kind of leg of the stool when it comes to the Pallas enterprise is the Pallas Foundation. Pallas Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit. Its mission is to help develop the next generation of national security leaders with an emphasis on underrepresented groups in global and national security. So in furtherance of that mission, we have a handful of different programs that the foundation operates. One of that being this fellowship program that we're here to discuss today, which I'll again go into further detail in a moment. But then we also operate a handful of other programs through the nonprofit, one being a scholarship initiative in partnership with Admiral Mike Mullen, providing scholarships to students that are pursuing careers in global and national security. We've got a handful of different partner schools that we work with, including Anne Arundel Community College, Morgan State University, North Carolina A&T. And then finally, we also, through the foundation, host a series of events that take a few different forms. Dinner series where we bring senior leaders from DoD, senior leaders from private industry, from academia, from think tanks, bring them around the table alongside young professionals to discuss topics important to national security. And then this past year, the foundation hosted its inaugural National Security Innovation Forum, which was a half-day conference focused on global national security and emerging technology. So that's kind of the enterprise as a whole. Really, the main mission that kind of brings the three arms together is just trying to have a positive impact on national security, mostly through helping getting the best emerging technology from the commercial sector into the federal government. So the fellowship program that we're here to discuss we're currently now in our hiring for our 16th cohort. So we have roughly about 60 or so alumni that have been through the program. So we've been operating the program for quite a while now. Generally a cohort consists of about 5, 6, or 7 young professionals, all looking to pursue careers in national security. So this summer cohort, as I mentioned, will be our 16th cohort, I believe, and it'll operate from roughly late May through mid-August. I can get you guys exact dates there, and that information will be kind of posted on the job description, which I'll drop a link to in a moment here. What we tend to do is bring on, like I said, about a half dozen young professionals. Think mostly grad students. We've had some success with some really great rising seniors and undergrads, some recent graduates, and even some recent graduates of graduate programs. So think kind of in the 22 to like 30-year-old age range is where the cohort generally falls. And we bring them on to the team here at Pallas Advisors. They get placed on specific director teams where they work closely with members of the team here at Pallas, and then also with a selected group of clients that we work on the Pallas Advisors side. I can go a little bit deeper into what the day-to-day kind of looks like as you're doing that kind of client work. But before I dive in there, that's roughly about 65% of what you do as a fellow at Pallas Advisors. The other third is very focused on professional development. So the professional development program is pretty robust. You'll spend about a third of your time in a bunch of different programs, but for example, one of them is our fireside chat series, where you'll have the opportunity to sit down in small group setting with senior leaders from the DoD, senior leaders from government, senior leaders from Pallas, just network, learn from their career path, opportunity in small group setting to get to know people that have kind of walked the path that you're aspiring to walk down. We also put fellows through a series of 101 briefs. So those are quick 45-minute briefs on topics that we feel are important to understand as you're kind of pursuing a career in national security. So think things as broad as like DoD 101, or as in the weeds as like the budgeting process in the federal government, or things tangential to global national security like Wall Street 101. We also take career placement really seriously for our fellowship. It isn't a formal program where we have formalized next steps for fellows, but we do take it seriously in the sense that we try to work with fellows to open up Pallas's broad network to really understand what your interests are, where you're trying to go next, and help make connections and help you kind of land in wherever is next after the Pallas Fellowship. We've got former fellows at state, at DoD. We've got in commerce. We've got former fellows in academia, at nonprofits, and many at both Pallas and a lot of the tech companies that we work with. So I'll kind of pause there after that quick overview. We'll kind of open it to you guys for any questions that you may have.
You feel free to type them in there if someone wants to raise their hand. Abby.
Hi, yes. So I looked kind of briefly at the application and it seemed kind of brief. So I'm wondering what kinds of experiences or qualifications you're looking for on the resume for fellows.
Yeah, Abby, that's a great question. So we do try to keep it a little brief, just out of respect for everyone's time. Our application process isn't, what you'd see at a major consulting firm or a tech company where you're going through like 5 rounds of interviews and you're, doing reports or presentations or anything like that. So we try to do that purposely just in respect for time. But what I will say is this program is specifically meant to help inspire a diverse background of people to pursue careers in national security. So we've seen people be really, really successful in this program from international relations backgrounds, from public policy backgrounds, computer science backgrounds, journalism, even, English or things that aren't like perfectly lined up with national security. The one through line I'd say that I've seen with really, really successful candidates is like a really just innate hunger to want to learn on a wide variety of topics. Because as I mentioned, Pallas kind of works at that intersection of national security and emerging technology. And because of that place in the ecosystem that it holds in itself in, we're touching government, think tanks, media, private industry. We're working with tech companies that are working on software, hardware. We're working with startups. We're working with the venture community. We're working with Fortune 10 companies. So I just keep kind of rambling all of those different things just to kind of paint the picture that we're kind of in that nexus of the entire stakeholder environment in national security. So what we really find to be the most successful fellows are ones that can really demonstrate that they're really just interested to learn and really interested to kind of get experience in a wide variety of topics in this space. I hope that was helpful. If I can elaborate any further, please let me know.
No, that was really excellent. Thank you.
It looks like we have a question in the chat regarding US citizenship.
Yes. So just reading through, making sure I understand correctly. So there is no need for a security clearance for this role. We do have a kind of firewalled off part of the organization that does some government contracting. But that is not something that fellows are generally exposed to, or if they are, they're exposed to a very specific part that doesn't require any sort of require any sort of clearance. That being said, to the first part of your question, the position is only open to US citizens, non-citizen nationals, asylees, refugees, and recent permanent residents. So we're not able to accept student visas or sponsor work visas or anything like that. So if you fall into one of those categories previously mentioned, all good there. But those are the citizenship requirements we have.
Looks like we have a hand raised. Allison Fong.
Yeah, so you've mentioned a lot about emerging technologies. I don't have a huge background in emerging technologies. Is that something that you're looking for specifically? I'm like very involved in like the international affairs and policy, but not specifically with emerging technology.
Yeah, Allison, that's a really good question. So I mean, coming into the fellowship, we're not necessarily looking. I don't think it is reasonable for us to expect anyone to be experts in any of these fields, given the target demographic of young professionals that we're shooting for, right? So we often see young professionals that join the program that have an interest in international relations, an interest in national security, an interest in where that intersects with emerging technology. And then can take that interest through our program to start to deep dive a little bit in where that intersection lives, what that intersection means, what emerging technology has to do with international relations or national security. So there's definitely not a requirement by any means to have a strong background in it. In fact, I think it helps that sometimes to have a little bit of a blank slate as you're coming in to being open to learn about a lot of different new things. But that being said, and it kind of relates back to the answer I was giving to Abby's question earlier, is the one thing that would be key, though, is to help. And I know it's not a lot of information or opportunity, but whether it's through in the application process itself, but whether it's through your resume, we ask for a few sentences on your interest in emerging technology and national security. So like through those, I think demonstrating interest through past experience is one thing, or showing your interest through those few sentences. I think it's key to show how or why you're interested in learning about that topic. But it definitely is not a prerequisite in any sense to be an expert in emerging tech to have a great experience in the program.
Great, thank you.
Got a question in the chat around the workplace culture.
Yeah, Emily, thanks for that question. So I've been on the team now for 3 years, and one of the things that keeps me there is the workplace culture. So culture kind of starts at the top, right? And it's a smaller organization. So we have 2 partners that are at the top of the organization, a series of about a half dozen directors that are each responsible for about 4 to 5 client relationships. And then on each director team, there is about 2 or 3 either analysts or associates that help support the client work. Fellows that are then placed in specific director teams to work with those groups. So I kind of draw that picture out a little bit just to give you a sense that it is a smaller team. It's not a giant organization. We have about 30 people full time. The vast majority of us are in the DC area. We have a couple remote employees, but the vast majority are all here. So it's a pretty tight-knit group. Everyone knows everyone on the team. Everyone is friendly with one another, knows everyone's backgrounds, strengths, weaknesses, where they grew up, what they care about, what they're passionate about. So being a small group, it's really a great culture as far as a tight-knit organization. And I will say that we're a group of people that take the work really seriously, but don't take ourselves too seriously, which I think is really important to kind of buy into the mission and the importance of what we're doing, what we're able to have an opportunity to affect when it comes to being involved in national security. But not taking yourself too seriously in the process while you're kind of working on these important topics. So I think it's a good balance of knowing when to work hard and when to, take things seriously, but also, trying to have a good time while we're working on these topics.
Seeing if there's any other questions.
It looks like Abby has her hand back up.
Oh, yep, there you go, Abby.
Great, thank you. Can you talk to us a little bit about the application process and what that looks like?
Yeah, great question. So I'm going to take this opportunity to just drop in the link here to the application process. I'm also going to put in my email address so you guys can reach out if there's any questions or concerns that we didn't get to today. But the application process is fairly straightforward. So follow that link there. It will take you through to a table where you kind of you just drop in, it helps your basic information, name, education background, dropping in a PDF of your resume, that type of stuff. It helps us just really kind of organize all the applicants. The only thing that is in there that isn't kind of straightforward is I think we asked for like 3 to 5 or 2 or 3, something like that, a few sentences on your interest in the intersection of national security and emerging technology. 2 to 3 sentences is not a lot. We kind of do that on purpose. It's a little bit of a test of like, can you get across a, you know, a cogent and compelling point quickly through writing, because a big part of what you're going to do at Pallas is kind of distilling lots of information, complex information, and distilling that for kind of bottom line upfront style writing to get it in front of senior leaders or get it in front of our clients. So it's a little bit of a, hey, are you able to distill information and get a lot of information across in a short period of time? So I will say, I just wanted to highlight that one section of the application, because that's probably like the most unique, where it's not necessarily just filling in, you know, the blanks of your, you know, your academic background or your work background, etc. After the application, which is open now currently, and the application window will remain open until Monday, March 18th. So you have a couple weeks to apply still, a little less than, I suppose. But once we collect all the applications, we try to keep it to be a pretty straightforward interview process. So we will interview in the first round, myself and one of the directors does a quick 20-minute interview. This is mostly a kind of conversational driven style, like understanding if it's a good cultural fit from both sides. You get to learn a little bit more about Pallas. We get to learn a little bit more about you as a candidate. From there, we try to keep it pretty straight to the point. We'll take a handful of candidates out of that first round, and myself and one of our founding partners will meet that smaller group of second round candidates. We'll do about a 30-minute interview, again, mostly conversational style interview. And from there, we make offers. So we try to keep it pretty short, to the point, respect everyone's time. So it's just a 2-round interview process.
Looking to see, we've got a couple things in the chat. Nope, that's just you. Is there any other questions anybody has?
Perfect. Well, again,
We're right on time.
yeah, really appreciate everyone's time. Really appreciate your interest in the program. Looking forward to hopefully seeing some applications come through from GW. Again, my email is in the chat. If any questions arise that I wasn't able to get to on this, or something, you know, dawns on you in an hour and you're like, oh, I wish I asked this. Like, I'm an open book. Feel free to reach out at any point. And again, thanks for everyone's time.
Thank you, Julian.
All right, take care.